My stepdaughter completely ignored me at her wedding and chose her real dad to walk her down the aisle. But when the bill came due, I was already long gone. I've been married to my wife, Lisa, for over 2 decades. When we first met, she was a single mom raising a 4-year-old girl named Katie. Katie was full of energy, always asking questions, and her laughter could light up even the dullest day. I still remember the first time I saw her, chasing a paper airplane at the park, gripping Lisa's hand as they came my way. Something about that moment told me I was looking at my future. Lisa didn't hide anything about her past. She told me right away that Katie's father, Josh, had never been dependable. He'd come around here and there, making promises he never kept. He'd show up for a birthday, maybe drop off a cheap toy, then disappear for months. Katie always lit up when he came by, even though Lisa tried her best not to let her hopes get too high. Once Lisa and I got serious, she told me Katie would always come first, and I accepted that without question. What I didn't expect was how deeply I'd come to love that little girl. It didn't happen overnight, but with every "I love you, Dad," and every crayon drawing with my name spelled wrong, I found myself wrapped around her little finger. I was the one running beside her while she learned to ride a bike, picking her up every time she fell and scraped her knees. When she spiked a fever in the middle of the night, I was there holding her while Lisa scrambled for the thermometer. At her first school recital, I helped her rehearse her poem until she could say it in her sleep. When the day came, she peeked out from behind the curtain, found my eyes in the crowd, and only then stepped onto the stage. I never missed a moment. Meanwhile, Josh was more like a ghost in the background. He'd make big claims. "Next summer, I'll take you to the beach," or "I'm getting you that bike," but none of it ever happened. And when Katie's heart broke from the letdowns, I was the one who picked up the pieces. I never tried to turn her against him. I just wanted her to keep believing in people, even if I had to carry the weight of his failures. As she got older, the bond between us only grew stronger. I was the one sitting at parent-teacher meetings, helping her shop for her graduation dress, cheering her on at every game from the stands. She called me Dad, and even though we didn't share blood, I knew she meant it with all her heart. That's why what happened later cut so deep. When Katie got accepted into college, I didn't hesitate to help. I paid for most of her tuition, bought her books, and even helped cover the rent on her tiny off-campus apartment. It wasn't easy on our budget, but I didn't care. I just wanted her to have the kind of start in life that I never got. Josh didn't really change. Every now and then he'd call and say something like, "Your dad's proud of you." But he never helped with money or showed up when it counted. Still, after her graduation, Katie came running to me with tears in her eyes and said, "Thank you, Dad, for everything. I couldn't have done this without you." In that moment, every dime I spent and every late night worrying felt completely worth it. So when she announced she was getting married to a guy named Paul, I was genuinely happy for her. I pictured myself walking her down the aisle, that one big moment that would say, "We made it." I never actually said it out loud, but deep down, I assumed that role would be mine. I had been there for all the big moments in her life, after all. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Katie was buzzing with excitement. She talked about her dress, the flowers, the music, everything. Just like always, I stepped in to help. I chipped in for the reception, helped pay for her dress, and took care of a few other expenses along the way. I didn't do it expecting anything, other than to be seen as an important part of her big day. Then the wedding invitation showed up. I opened it with a smile, expecting to see my name listed somewhere special. Instead, it was just a standard guest list. Nothing about it made me feel recognized. Then I saw it. Katie had asked Josh to walk her down the aisle. At first, I thought maybe there'd been some mix-up. But when I asked her directly, her answer hit me like a punch to the gut. She said, "There's only one biological father, and I've always wanted to give him this moment." I can't even describe how that felt. Years of love, hard work, and everything I'd done, swept aside like they didn't matter. But what stung the most wasn't even her choice. It was the way she said it, like it had never occurred to her that I might deserve that moment. Like all those years meant nothing. Her wedding day turned out to be one of the most painful, humiliating days of my life. I got there early that day, wearing the suit I'd had tailored just for the wedding. Sat down quietly with the rest of the guests and watched as all the attention turned to Josh, who was proudly walking Katie down the aisle. I waited during the speeches, hoping anyone, might say a few words about me. But no one did. It was like I didn't even exist. Something in me cracked that day. The part of me that had always given without expecting much back just shut down. I didn't know it at the time, but that moment set off a shift in me that would change everything. Watching Katie walk down the aisle on her real dad's arm is something I'll never forget. She looked beautiful, like any bride should. But what I saw wasn't just a happy moment, it was soaked in bitterness. Not because I didn't want her to be happy, but because I realized right then that I didn't matter to her like I thought I did. I was replaceable. About a week after the wedding, Katie and her new husband Paul took off for a fancy honeymoon. One of those all-inclusive beach resorts with picture-perfect views and all the extras. I didn't ask much about it. Honestly, I couldn't bring myself to join in any talk about something that had come right after the most painful moment in our relationship. What I didn't expect was what happened when she got back. She barely had time to unpack before she gave me a call. Her voice was cheerful, like nothing had happened at all. She went on about the beaches and how Paul had surprised her with a candlelit dinner under the stars. I just sat there listening, giving short replies, trying hard to hold it together. Then came the part one should have seen coming. "Dad," she said, and just hearing that word hit me harder than I wanted to admit. "I need a favor." She told me they'd run into some unexpected costs during the honeymoon and were a bit short on money. Could I help cover it? For a second, I didn't know what to say. The way she asked, so casually, like it was just expected, stirred something in me. I was always the one who stepped up, who made things happen, who gave up what I needed to make sure she was okay. But this time, something inside me said no. Maybe it was hurt pride. Maybe it was all those years of being second choice catching up to me. All I know is, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to say yes. "I'm sorry, Katie," I told her, trying to keep my voice steady even though my chest was pounding. "I can't help you this time." Silence. I could almost picture the look on her face. "Finally," she said, "but you've always helped before." She sounded stunned, like it hadn't even crossed her mind I'd say no. I took a breath. "Maybe you should ask Josh," I said. "He's your real dad, isn't he? Maybe he can help this time." Another long pause. Then she quietly said, "I understand," and hung up. No argument. No yelling. Just a sudden end that left me sitting there, feeling hollow. Later that night, Lisa confronted me. She said I was being heartless, that I couldn't just turn my back on Katie when she was struggling. I told her it wasn't about the money. It was about being respected. I was there for her for over 20 years, I said. And when she had the chance to show that it mattered, she made me feel like it didn't count for anything. I can't keep stepping in only when things fall apart. Lisa didn't get it. For her, blood always meant more, even when that blood had done nothing but offer empty promises and disappear. Our conversation ended in silence, but after that, something changed between us. It was like a wall quietly went up where there hadn't been one before. Katie hasn't reached out to me since. Right after that call, Lisa told me Paul was upset too. He thought I'd abandoned Katie at a tough time. And as it turned out, Josh had already pulled his usual trick, vanished without a word. No calls. No help. Nothing. I guess Katie finally saw who he really was. But that didn't erase what she did to me or how it made me feel. That night, sitting alone in the living room, I thought about all the moments I'd shared with her. Every time she smiled and called me dad. And I realized something. I'd always believed being a dad was something you earned. That the word meant I had a place in her life that I had built with love and effort. But now, I wasn't so sure. Maybe to her, it was just a word she used when it suited her, when it benefited her. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully move on from this. But I do know one thing for sure. This time, I won't be the one giving anymore. Because truth is, I don't think I've got anything left to give. It's been 3 months since the wedding, and even though I've done my best to keep my distance, the drama still finds me. Lisa keeps trying to smooth things over between me and Katie. She gives me that look, a mix of disappointment and hoping I'll give in, like she's just waiting for me to go back to being the guy who never said no. But what she doesn't seem to understand, or maybe just won't accept, is that something inside me changed that day. I can't go back to the way things were. Since that phone call where I told Katie I couldn't help with the honeymoon, things between us have faded out completely. She hasn't called, and yeah, that stung at first. But now, honestly, it feels like a weight off my shoulders. No more fake check-ins that always ended with her needing money. What did surprise me was how fast the cracks started showing in her marriage. Lisa kept talking to Katie, of course. One night over dinner, she casually mentioned that things weren't going great. "Katie and Paul are struggling," she said with a heavy sigh. "Paul lost his job. They're behind on rent." I kept eating. already knowing where this was going. And sure enough, Lisa kept pushing. "Don't you think we should help them?" she asked. "She's our daughter, after all." I put my fork down and took a slow breath. "She's not my daughter anymore, Lisa," I said. "According to Katie, that job belongs to Josh. If she needs help," I added, "she can call him." Lisa looked at me like I just said something awful. "How can you be so cold?" she asked. "She's always counted on you. You can't just walk away now." I let out a short, bitter laugh. Cold? Cold is what she did to me at her wedding. That's exactly how it felt. Cold. Like I was a stranger sitting in the back row. I looked at her and said, "If Josh gets the big moments, then he can handle the hard ones too." That ended the talk. Lisa got up and took her plate to the sink without saying a word. That night, we went to bed without speaking, laying there with our backs to each other. It hurt. I won't lie. Watching this whole thing put a crack in our marriage was the last thing I wanted. But I couldn't keep being the guy who gave everything and got nothing back. And just when I thought I might finally get a little peace, Katie reached out, not directly, of course. A week later, I got a message from Paul. Real short. Just said, "Hey, it's Paul, Katie's husband. I need to talk to you about something important. Do you have time?" I didn't answer right away. Just let it sit there. I already knew what it was about: money. It was always about money. After a couple of days, I decided to meet him. Figured I had nothing to lose. We met at a little cafe near town. He was already there, tapping his foot and staring into a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. I sat down without saying a word, waiting for him to start. "Thanks for coming," he said after a minute, but it didn't sound genuine. More like something he felt he had to say. "I know things have been rough between you and Katie," he went on, "but we're going through a tough time, and we're hoping you might help." There it was. The ask. I kept a straight face. "What do you need?" I asked, even though I already knew. Paul sighed and looked down at his coffee. "We've been having a hard time since the honeymoon. I lost my job. We're behind on rent. If we don't pay up in 2 weeks, we could get evicted." I let that hang in the air for a second, then asked him a question he clearly hadn't expected. "Have you asked Josh?" He looked up, confused. "Josh? No, we haven't talked to him." Katie thought, "Well, that you might help. You've always been there." I gave him a smile, but it wasn't a warm one. It was the kind you give when irony hits a little too hard. "Exactly," I said, leaning in. "And yet when it mattered, really mattered, she chose Josh." I paused, then said, "So no, Paul, I won't be helping this time. Maybe it's time Josh steps up for once in his life." He tried to push back, saying it wasn't fair, that this wasn't just about Katie, it was about him too. I raised a hand to stop him. "This conversation's over," I said flatly. "I wish you both the best, but I'm done fixing things for people who don't value me." Then I stood up, left him sitting there with his cold coffee and his excuses. When I got home from that talk with Paul, Lisa was already waiting for me, like she knew exactly how it went. I didn't say much. Didn't need to. She could tell I hadn't helped them. Since then, Katie and Paul stopped trying to reach out. But Lisa's still upset. She doesn't push me about it anymore, but I can feel the tension. Something tells me we're not done with this mess yet. When something big breaks, there's always more pieces to clean up. It's been 6 months since the wedding. And honestly, these months have been strange, but freeing. I've stuck to my decision. I've stayed out of Katie and Paul's problems. Sure, it hasn't been easy. Lisa's been resentful the whole time. She won't say it straight, but I can see it in her face. That look that says she thinks I let them down. No matter how many times I tried to explain it's not about money, it's about respect, it just doesn't seem to register. Maybe she doesn't get it. Maybe she doesn't want to. But even with the tension, there's been a kind of peace I haven't felt in years. For the first time in a long while, I don't feel like I'm carrying everyone's weight. I've been doing things for myself again. Picked up woodworking. Spent time with a couple of old friends. Just little things, but they've reminded me of who I was before all this. At first, I felt guilty for stepping back. But now, I think it was necessary. That said, the drama didn't exactly stop. A few weeks ago, Lisa told me Katie and Paul finally got evicted. Couldn't come up with the money in time. The landlord gave up on waiting. Now they're living with Paul's mom in a tiny apartment. Way too small for 2 adults, especially 2 married ones going through a rough patch. Lisa was mad when she told me. Real mad. "This wouldn't have happened if you had helped them," she said, voice full of blame. I didn't respond. No point. No matter what I say, she's going to see me as the bad guy when things go wrong for Katie. But deep down, I know I made the right call. Katie chose to cut me out. And now, she's living with the consequences of that choice. That's how life works. And here's the kicker. Lisa says Josh has been totally missing through all of this. Katie reached out to him, and he didn't even answer. Not a call, not a text. Nothing. I can't say I'm surprised. The guy's been unreliable his whole life. What has surprised me is how Katie still holds out hope for him. A few days ago, while Lisa was cooking, she told me something that almost made me laugh. Apparently, Josh told Katie he'd help her find a new place to live, but he hasn't followed through. Says he's waiting for his finances to stabilize. I raised an eyebrow. And she still believes him? Lisa just sighed and looked at me. He's her father, she said, like that was all there was to it. That stuck with me. For years, I've been trying to fill in the hole Josh left behind. But now I'm starting to wonder, was it all pointless? Maybe it was never about what I did. Maybe, for Katie, it was always about the fact that he was her father, that he existed, that biology beat everything else. Then, last week, Katie finally reached out. And this time, it wasn't about money. She sent a message asking if we could talk. Said she wanted to meet. I didn't answer right away. Took my time. But in the end, curiosity got the better of me. We met at a park we used to go to when she was a kid. She was already sitting on a bench when I got there, messing with her hands like she didn't know what to do. When I walked up, she stood and gave me a quick hug. It felt stiff, unsure. I hugged her back, but only out of habit. We sat down and didn't say much at first. Just silence. Then she started talking, but not about why she'd asked to meet. She went on about how hard it's been living with Paul's mom, how the apartment's too small, how her marriage feels tense, how she misses having her own space. I listened, didn't interrupt. I figured she needed to vent. And then, finally, she said it. Dad, she said. That one word used to mean the world to me. Now, it just sounded empty. I know I disappointed you, Katie said. I know the wedding hurt you. And I don't think I realized how much until it was too late. I stayed quiet and let her talk. Inside, I felt a mess of things, sadness, disbelief, and yeah, a bit of resentment that still hadn't gone away. She took a deep breath and added, I just want to say I'm sorry for how things turned out. I never meant to make you feel like you didn't matter. But you did, I said, calm but firm. Not just at the wedding, Katie. Every time you looked past everything I did. Every time you held Josh up like he was something he never was. You say you didn't want me to feel replaced, but the truth is, I don't think I was ever really there in the first place. She looked down, shaken. I think she came there hoping I'd just forgive her, that we could go back to the way things were. But we couldn't. Not anymore. Some things, once they break, they just don't go back together. We wrapped up not long after that. As we said goodbye, she told me she hoped we could rebuild things over time. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want that, but because I wasn't sure it was even possible. Katie didn't just hurt my feelings, she broke something deeper. She broke my trust. I did something recently, something Lisa and Katie will probably never forgive me for. And truth be told, I'm not even sure I should be asking for forgiveness. Since the wedding, things between Lisa and me have been falling apart, slowly at first, but now it feels like there's nothing left. What started as distance has turned into a canyon. The love, the connection, even the respect we had, it's all gone. We still live in the same house, but it doesn't feel like a home anymore. We haven't been close in a long time. At first, I figured it was stress, that things would work themselves out. But as time went on, it became clear, Lisa wasn't just upset. She was holding a grudge. She blamed me for everything Katie was going through. And that bitterness? It found its way into every part of our marriage. Where we used to sit and talk or laugh through movies, now there's just silence. Cold, heavy silence. Every time I try to reach out, she pulls away. And right there, in the middle of that silence, someone else showed up in my life. Rachel, Lisa's best friend. The fun aunt who always brought gifts and told big, wild stories. She'd always been around, but something changed after the wedding. She started calling more, checking in. At first, I thought she was trying to patch things up between Lisa and me. But over time, I realized it was more than that. Rachel was the only one who made me feel like I wasn't the bad guy in all this. She listened. Really listened. She told me I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt. That I'd been treated unfairly. That I mattered. Her words started to mean more than I expected. Our conversations became something I looked forward to. She saw me, not as a villain, but just as a man trying to do right. It wasn't planned. I swear it wasn't. But one night, after another long talk, we just sat there quietly. We'd said everything there was to say about Lisa, about the way I felt, about how lost I'd been. Then Rachel reached for my hand. "You deserve to be happy," she said. "And they're not letting you." I don't know if it was her voice or the way she looked at me, but the next thing I knew, I was kissing her. And she didn't stop me. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed with her. We talked for hours, we laughed, we let it all out. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not judged, not resented. Seen. I know what I did was wrong. I know that. But I don't regret it. Because in Rachel, I found something I hadn't felt in years: connection. The kind I lost with Lisa a long time ago. Lisa knows something's off. She watches me when I come home late, glances over when I step outside to answer a message. But she hasn't said anything yet. Rachel feels the guilt too. We both do. But if I'm being honest, neither of us regret what happened. Not really. Still, I know it can't go on like this. Sooner or later, Lisa's gonna find out. And once that happens, there's no undoing it. But for now, at least I don't feel so alone. It's been 2 years. Looking back, it all feels like a bad storm that passed through. But the damage? It's still there. I've managed to rebuild parts of my life. But I'm not sure I'll ever fully fix what got broken. Lisa and Katie, both of them, they cut me out completely. And honestly, as painful as that was, in a strange way, they set me free. When I finally came clean, it didn't go anything like I thought it would. Lisa got to me first, before I even had a chance to sit her down. "What is this?" she asked. "I've seen how you've changed. Tell me the truth." So I told her. Blurted it out. "Rachel and we've been seeing each other. She was there for me when no one else was." Her face changed right in front of me from shock to anger. Then came the words I still can't shake. "So that's it? Everything we built, none of it mattered to you?" I didn't even know what to say. Everything I'd done, all the years I'd spent trying to hold this family together, it felt like they were being wiped away in a single moment. "Lisa," I said, my voice barely holding steady, "while you were trying to save Katie, I lost myself, and you didn't even notice." She screamed. Loud. The kind of scream that cuts right through you. "What you've done is unforgivable. You destroyed our family." Katie walked in next. I could tell by the look in her eyes, she already knew. "I thought you were better than this," she said. Cold. "But you never really cared, did you? You just wanted to play the hero. And now look." "That's not true," I said, voice shaking. "You pushed me away. You picked Josh. And when things fell apart, I was just supposed to fix everything. But I gave you everything I had, and it still wasn't enough." "Was it ever enough?" Lisa shouted. "Because it sure doesn't justify this." She turned to Katie. "Katie, let's go." And just like that, they were gone. They told me not to call, not to write, just to disappear. It hurt. Of course it did. But there was also this weird sense of relief. Because, deep down, I knew there was nothing left to save. I packed a few bags and moved into a small apartment. The divorce was rough, long, messy, draining. But the worst part wasn't the paperwork. It was knowing the life I had built was over. Through it all, Rachel stayed by my side. She didn't try to sugarcoat things. She didn't make excuses for me. But she didn't judge me either. She helped me stand back up. And then, one day, out of nowhere, I got a message from Katie. "Dad, I know I hurt you. I know I let you down. But you'll always be my father. I'm sorry. I know things can't go back to the way they were. But I'll always love you." I didn't reply right away. The pain was still there. Too fresh. Maybe one day I'll find peace with it all. But for now, I'm just taking the next step. Trying to move forward, no matter what I've left behind.